My name is Paige Colwell, and this is an overview of my contemporary artist lesson. I usually do this assignment on the first day of school before any other class expectations have been introduced. I teach 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and for a lot of them, they're coming to me never really having had a art class before. And so this is their first introduction to an art class, and to me as a teacher. It relies heavily on risk-taking and experimentation. I introduced them to contemporary graphic designer and illustrator Christoph Niemann and his concept of Sunday sketches, which is an exercise that he created based on his own creative process. These drawings are usually very simple, which makes them less intimidating for beginners. Niemann takes a random object from somewhere around his house and he sits with it for a little while. He looks at it from all different angles and he tries to see what else the object can represent or be transformed into. He combines his object with just a few lines of ink, and then suddenly you have a totally different image. I have a slideshow that I made about Niemann that has a brief overview of his career and his life. And I go through that slideshow with my students. It includes also examples of his work and his Sunday sketches, as well as examples of Sunday sketches that my students have done in the past. It also outlines the lesson objectives and the only 2 rules for making a Sunday sketch, which are the object cannot be used for its original purpose in your image. So, for example, if you choose a pencil, you can't use it as a pencil. And if your object is removed from your composition, then your entire drawing isn't going to make sense anymore. Students begin exploring the classroom once we've had our class discussion, and it's, we've gone over how to do a Sunday sketch and what it is that they need to be doing. I tell them you can use whatever materials that you can find in the classroom and whatever objects that you can find in the classroom. And so they're set loose basically in the classroom to explore it. They dig through cabinets, pick up materials and objects that are interesting to them, that they're curious about. They're not directed in any way as to what they can or cannot use. Students who have been in my classroom before or have taken me before will help new kids find stuff, be like, hey, I really want to use this. Oh, I know where that is. And this is one of those ways where, especially with the 6th graders who don't know each other, they end up interacting with each other in a positive, collaborative way. This requires a little bit of calm and patience on the teacher's part, right? Because we're just kind of cultivating chaos. Students, after they get their materials and their objects, they sit down at their desk and they hold up their object and they look at them from all different angles. They try to spark some kind of inspiration or see if that reminds them of some kind of image that they didn't think of before. They also will get up and they'll walk around and they'll look at each other's work and they'll talk to each other. This brings about a very organic conversation about the creative process. Sometimes making the image works means that you have to hold the camera or the object at a certain angle. And that means that you can't do it by yourself. And so this is another way in which this project gets the kids to interact with each other and to work with each other. I spend the entire class walking around and checking in with each student and having them explain back to me their creative process and what decisions they're making and why they're making those decisions. This is part of my assessment. For students with little experience in art, this opens a door. They become less intimidated by technical skills and they begin to think about alternative ways of art making. After the image has been photographed, the sketch is deconstructed. Nothing about the project is permanent, so students put less emphasis on the end result and they focus more on the process of making the image. Examining the object, trying out a concept, failing, and starting over forces the students to evaluate their decisions as they are making them. We have a class discussion about the assignment where I display their images on the projector and they explain their process to their classmates. The articulation of their own creative process and the reasoning behind their choices tell me that they focused on the process more than the product. On the left-hand side is a student example of a Sunday sketch. That's one of my kids that did that. On the right-hand side is one that I made as an example. I've taught this lesson to my students now for years, and I've also taught it in district professional developments. And I've seen a wide range of creative outcomes from teachers and students of all ages. Any skill level can effectively do this project. At the end of it, my students have learned where to find the materials in the classroom. They've met each other and collaboratively worked with their peers and reevaluated their own skill sets and creative processes.